I do agree that to a lot of what you're saying about that as far as a baby is concerned. I can only speak from my own experience because I was raised Southern Baptist, but when I went to church and it was like it was told, yeah, right, and I was told here is what happened in the Bible, and then I would live my life and it would not like coincide, or the things I was taught in school would not coincide the things I was taught in Bible school. But beyond that, when I would be home, there was something inside me that called to the night, to the stars, to the moon, and that was not something that I found in church, but it was something that touched me on a deep level. I didn't know what to call it, I didn't know how to express it, but there was something that was affecting me beyond the Southern Baptist upbringing that I was exposed to, and this was as a young child. So I do agree that, you know, the concepts and stuff of religion can be taught, but there was something that, for me, that happened to me that just transcended all of that. And then as time went on, the only word that would really apply to it would be pagan or Wiccan, because that would be the only word that could be descriptive
but you don't call yourself,
world of what
you don't include yourself in a Wiccan world.
Yes.
You do?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, then you've got to explain that to us. What is the Wiccan world?
Well, the Wiccan world, again, is the belief. I guess the main differences would be that we honor divinity as goddess as well as God, because to me, to say that, okay, the earth was like the God gave birth to the world and God is a father does not make sense, because it is the female that does the birthing process.
Is there a male deity in Isis?
Osiris. Well, yes, we have God and we have goddess. But to me, even behind that is some kind of creative, almighty force that somehow, like, this is what God and Goddess is. There's something behind that seems to be a universal energy, or chi, or prana, or whatever word.
Or first cause.
First cause.
But you would deny
that. Yes, I think I would. I still think that everything is a natural explanation, and what you're describing to me sounds a bit supernatural, that something outside of yourself is controlling all living things. I'm not sure if I misunderstood.
I don't believe that. I believe that every life force is a thinking entity, and through the thoughts we open ourselves up to whatever pranic energy, first creative cause of energy, of matter, whatever it is that forms matter. I mean, even our bodies, every 7 years we regenerate. So what is it about matter that's able to keep us together in a physical body? To me, there's some kind of force beyond that, and you call it supernatural. It's only because we don't understand it, but the word natural is still a part of it.
I think that's what you're saying, is if you don't understand it, you reject it.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't understand. It's because I don't have enough information.
Right. Right.
There's so many models of the cosmos, and I'm not sure which one that I want to believe yet, but they all have certain reasonable claims, and that's, if I don't have the evidence, I want at least a reasonable logic involved.
Is there a first cause in tribal religions? They're natural religions in some ways, aren't they?
They are natural, like Taoism is a religion of nature,
right,
you know, and humankind within nature. But the whole idea of the earth as mother is the most important, but not in the sense of a goddess or a god.
But of a feminine principle.
Well, because of giving birth, you know, supporting all life,
right,
giving birth in that sense.
Right.
I mean, you know, many tribal religions believe that people came up from underneath the earth, from the center of the earth, and were allowed to become in a society on the surface of the earth. But I think, going back to what you said, there are times and places when I think Eliade gave it a term called a hierophany, or a transcendence of something kind that happens to a person that is such a personal experience, but is so unexplainable. And all the scientific theories in the world and the research and doing it in the lab and trying to recreate it over and over again doesn't happen. So how is that explained?
Let me just respond a bit to my friend here. There are explanations actually for things like this now. Neuropsychologists are
working. Things like what?
Well, got to tell you, neuropsychologists are working on precisely this kind of thing. They've been able, for example, to pinpoint certain places in the brain that are active when people believe they're having some kind of a religious experience and things like that. And they're also being able to isolate certain neurotransmitters and so on that kick in at certain either stress times in people's lives or meditative points. It's not to say, well, it is to say people have genuine religious experiences. What the question becomes then is those religious experiences empirically explainable? Do they come from psychological needs and imperatives? Do they come from inside ourselves? Or is the question is, do they come from outside ourselves? Theists would say they come from outside ourselves. And scientists and others, and perhaps maybe most atheists, maybe not all, because there's different kinds of atheists, would say that those experiences are valid, but the experiences can be interpreted in a scientific way rather than as a way, than in a supernatural way.
Transcendent way.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I think. Now, you were not born in this vacuum. So you came out of some, did you have any kind of tradition? What I'm getting at is what brought you to this philosophical, intellectual position against whatever it was that you were exposed to. It seems to me that you're very brave. That somebody who is not part of the cultural religious givens, Judaism, Christianity, and today more and more Islam, has taken a brave stand. That's not easy to do, it seems to me. And you two have done it. Tribal Americans have not necessarily done it because they're born into it.
But they weren't allowed to do.
They weren't allowed to do it.
That was denied them. In
Right, 300 years ago I wasn't either.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. They had a fire for you.
Right, yes. And a few other exercises before the fire.
Well, that's right. Tell me, that's one of the questions I had later on, is how you received in the culture in which you live. But tell me, what was it? Was there an experience? Or was it a intellectual journey? What was it that brought you to take that stand?
Well, there's a broader term called free thinkers. And basically, that just states that we feel comfortable thinking outside of the norm. Just because it's been believed for thousands of years, if it doesn't make sense to us, we don't necessarily personally have to believe it, and we feel comfortable with that. Now, my own personal story is being Finnish. My family is Lutheran, and I wasn't really urged to go to church or coerced to go to church. As a young child, I decided that I would go with my friends to see what their churches were like, and at that point I wanted to believe. I felt odd that I couldn't believe these stories they were telling me. And I tried to believe. I went to Bible studies.
Where were you raised?
In Pennsylvania. So at a certain point, as a young adult, just before I went in the military, I kind of gave it up and started going to, or reading science books. And there I started finding, again, that logical, reasonable answers. Even if they weren't complete, I knew that they were on the right direction, and I became comfortable with the scientific method that even if what we think is true now, if it's proven wrong, science will still ultimately go towards the truth, whether it's convenient or not.
And religious traditions may not, from your perspective.
I believe that most religious traditions cannot.
How do you define religion? Leslie, what is a religion?
There's as many definitions as there are religions, and in this country...
You're laughing. You define religion.
In this country alone, there's over 5